Well, hey, and welcome to the Becoming Better podcast. My name's Nate, and I'm so glad you're here. Well, on today's episode, Jason, Josh, and I sit down and we discuss last Sunday's message. If you haven't listened to last Sunday's message, I want to encourage you to stop here and give that a listen, as that will help make this conversation make more sense to you. Well, with this being Holy Week, I want to invite you to our Easter service if you don't have a place to go. We'll have a Good Friday service on Friday at 6 p.m. in the Prescott campus. We also have 5 services in Prescott and 3 in Prescott Valley. We have 2 on Saturday in Prescott, 3 and 5. And then on Sunday, we have our normal times, 8, 9:30, and 11:15. And then in Prescott Valley, we'll have 8, 9:30, and 11:15 on Sunday. We look forward to seeing you guys there. Well, without further ado, we hope you enjoy this conversation. How's it going, everybody?
Happy Monday, everybody.
Welcome back, everybody.
We're back.
Yeah, it's been 2 weeks.
2
for me.
weeks. Yep. So
Yeah.
you.
I was out last week.
Yep. So
Mm-hmm.
it was funny. I was listening to both the last 2 weeks episodes, and I thought it was so funny. They were talking about sports last week with Ken and like T-ball and everything. Or was that 2 weeks? Were you guys talking about?
That was us.
T-ball.
I'm pretty sure.
Yep. And then they were talking about sports again last week. I was like, oh no, I leave for 2 weeks and just all these sports. And I had a couple people come up and they're like, hey, we got the email. Are you guys good? Like, are you still on the show? I'm like, yeah, I'm still on the show. So I was like, we can't come back and talk about sports, even though it's been a crazy weekend for sports.
It's true, but it's fine. What are we talking about? Don't even get me
nope.
started.
So-
We'll go down that route.
But I figured today we can kind of talk about, Jason, we saw the recap video of the 2 mission trips. And since both of us were on each one of them, I thought we could talk a little bit about the trips. And we could start with you first and explain a little bit more about Casas por Cristo and the trip you guys took.
Yeah, it was really great. There was about 30 of us, about half adults, half kids. And it was really cool. We got to go down and we crossed the border in Juarez. Casas por Cristo does an amazing job. They just have such an incredible ministry. They've been down there for, I think something around 30 years. They've been partnering with local churches there and building homes, and churches like ours get to go down and help to build them. And so the way it works is for us, the church, your financial commitments here to Quad City, it's what actually help pays for the building, for the homes themselves. And so the church sponsors those, and then all the people who attend, pay their own fees to Casas por Cristo that help, cover the cost of, food and lodging and that kind of stuff. And so they've done a great ministry, and they've been a part of that community for so long. They've got, 4 or 5 bunk houses all over the city.
Yeah.
So depending upon where you're going to be building, it's like think about a camp. You got a big room, and then there's 4 other rooms that have just a bunch of bunk beds in it. And so it was just really great. And so proud of our teams. We built 2 homes, two separate sites for 2 separate families. And it was so amazing that, we get to interact with the families. It's not just a build it and leave. We actually get to connect with these families. And we had a couple of people on each team who spoke Spanish. We took Pastor Richard with us. And so that guy's just an evangelist, right? I mean, he's just going up and down. It was funny. He was on the other team, but they'd say he would come and he would nail one nail, and then he would wander off because he would see somebody. It's in the middle of a community. And so he would just go wander off and talk to people, and just did an amazing job helping connect people, and got to pray with some people. He even shared the gospel with a family, and we got them a Bible and help them get connected because they're trying to figure out what are all these gringos doing over here. And so he got to share the story. and actually got to connect him to a local pastor there. And I mean, it was just really, really cool. Just to get to see that, to be a part of that. So it was super exciting. It's a lot of hard work. I mean, for people who I'm a keyboard warrior. That's what I do. I don't have calluses. And so being able to go and to flex some of those muscles was a lot of fun. And there was some good natured, competition to see which team could get their house done, and I lost, and that hurt.
Oh no,
that hurt. And what makes it worse is that Brett was on the other team, and if you know Brett will let you know.
Yeah,
he's gonna let you know.
Yep.
And so he let me know.
Yeah,
and that hurt. It hurt. So,
and both of you guys have history with this organization, right? Because Josh, you have a coffee mug.
I do. Yeah. So the coffee. So when I first got here, the girl came to sell us on going down there. So I wanted to take a trip forever, but also my worship pastor in Louisiana, when we were there for 7 years, it's his uncle. Who runs the mission, and so he's from Lubbock. So his entire summers were spent building houses in Juarez. Yeah. That's all he knows, And so most of his skill, because he's a pretty handy guy, he's like, "Oh yeah, man, I learned it." Because in Mexico, you got to figure out how to do everything, because none of it works how it's supposed to.
Right.
And so he's super handy. He's probably not like whatever, but anyways, his uncle is the guy who runs it. It's his family, so we had a really cool connection there. It's really awesome.
And I've known that uncle. So his name's David Robertson. Yeah. And way back in the late 1900s, I was a student pastor in Midland, Texas, when David was up in Lubbock, Texas. And so most churches are part of a camp association. And so, you got these same 15 churches that all attend this same camp. And so out in West Texas, there was only about 10 churches that kind of created this brotherhood, and we were in that brotherhood. And so I've known David for 30 years. And so getting to connect with him again and see him, that was great. So yeah, it's a great organization. Grateful to be a part of it. And
it's cool.
Everybody who went, we're just stoked about the potential of going back. So so grateful for our teams. It was so fun.
That's awesome. It's definitely for sure a plan. Like we're gonna try to keep doing this. And really cool. Like they do them all over the place. It's not just in Juarez. They're in Costa Rica and the Dominican, I believe, a couple other places. So they've got some other places that they also go in. And again, what I love is, to your point, they're connected to the local churches. And so really the win is we're going to leave, but these pastors now, are able to keep ministering and pastoring these families that they've connected with. So, and all we did was provide the sweat equity. Like, we don't want any of the glory. So that's a really cool aspect of it, I think.
And so we got to, we do the commissioning, and we saw a piece of that. We're all circled up around the building, and we're praying over that home. And the local pastor is there with the family. And so, he says some words, and we could share a few words. And as we go through that process, it was great. One of the things that happened, excuse me, that we hadn't really planned on, but, as people got a little bit worried about some of the safety concerns or some of the stuff that was going on in Mexico, one of the things that kind of shifted is we ended up with more families that were going, not just students, but we got to see some families, and that was really great. So like my wife and I went with our son, I got to see David Gibney go with David and Joan both took their grandchildren. We got to see Dan take his son, and so we got to see all of these family units serving together. And that was probably one of the best parts of this. And that's one of the things that we want to continue. Like, it was really cool that we got to see families serving together. And so that's probably going to shift how we think about these trips moving forward, is we want to provide these opportunities for students and adults to do it together. Because again, I think we had an amazing group of teenage girls that went, and they just killed it. Like it was just so fun just to watch them and work alongside them. And so having, old men like John Cava working with some of our high school girls, it was so cool. It was a lot of fun.
That's so cool. And then I went with the team to Romania. So we took a team of, I think it was 14, and we went down to Romania. with Hope Partners, and it was awesome getting to see how they do ministry out there in the area that we're in, Babadog. It's primarily gypsy people, which the Romanians kind of look down on gypsy people. And there was just this family that, with Hope Partners, built this Hope Center, and they're currently meeting in a salon. So they found this lady who turned into a Christian, and she said, "Hey, I want to help these kids, so you guys can use my salon." So it's a tiny, like, it's probably as big as a shed, which is pretty gracious. And she does hair out of there, but the kids just come over after school, and they get the one meal that they get that day from these Hope Partners, and they just learn about Jesus, and they'll get help with their homework, and it was really cool. So we got to see where they're currently meeting, and then we got to go over and see where they're going to meet. So they built this 3-story building, which you kind of saw in the video on Sunday.
Yeah.
And it was cool. They purposely, most of the properties have these huge fences to keep people out. And they purposely built this building with no fence because they want people to come in. And got in there, and they have like a kitchen floor. And then on the second floor is kind of like the study area. And then the third floor is like a hangout. And it's a great view of Babadog. So you can go up and hang out and see Babadog from there, which was really cool. So it's awesome because we also are financially giving to Hope Partners, which is also getting to be given to Babadog.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see what they're doing down there. We also got to go to Ukraine for a day, which that was an experience, just seeing the work that the Romanians are doing at the front line. So it was really cool. And the team that we took down was amazing. They were flexible. And yeah, we had a great time. So there was some interesting airport, like, just drama, because we're changing flights, going back and forth. So when we flew into England, they thought we were staying there. So they didn't let us in because of the visa. So coming back, we had a language barrier.
Yeah.
So they're like, you just need to get the ETA. We're like, all right. So we're all on our phones trying to get ETA, and knowing that we weren't going to go into England. But took 14 out, came back with 14, and it was
So there you
win.
go.
So
there you go. Brought everybody home.
Yep.
Wow.
So, but one cool story that came out of it was there was this girl who, she's 15 or 16. And in the gypsy community, they just have these kids. And if it's a girl, they're just kind of property. And you just have, if you have a girl, then she's just kind of your like get out of jail card, where you'll like sell her if you need money. So we met one of these girls, and just, a great leader, and really smart, and like has all these dreams for her life. But her parents are divorced and separated. And her fear is that one of the parents are going to come and, once they need money, come and sell her. So the people in Babadog have been working with the parents of like, hey, like, let us adopt your daughter, take her financially, like, burden from you, even though they're not paying anything for her. She's just kind of living down there. So we had spent time with her, and just kind of on our nights, we were just kind of praying for God to move in the parents' lives, and came back. And actually, it's really cool. One of the families that went on the trip with us ended up sponsoring her. So she sponsored for school, for anything she needs, food. And we came back and just kind of been praying, and like just really hoping God moves in an amazing way. And Sunday morning, we found out that the family had gotten adoption papers from the parents saying that, you know what, we're giving up our rights.
Wow.
And so now she's going to be able to grow up and go to school, and she wants to be a baker. So
sweet.
She'll be going to school for that. So it was really cool to just see that and to be praying for that and to see how quickly God had answered that prayer. So, so it was cool.
It's good stuff, man.
Yeah, it is such a great reminder, as you do these trips. What we do while we're there is really secondary to what God does in us when we're there. Just the things that you get to see and experience, and having conversations with my son about the things that we take for granted. We're building this house, but it has no running water. They don't have any plumbing in these places, and just being able to help recognize, man, we have been given, to whom much is given, much is required. And we see you don't realize it when you're just around everybody who's kind of at the same status as you are, but you go around the world and you realize, oh no, we're at a completely different level.
Yeah.
And to whom much is given, much is required.
Yep. So the cool thing though is with both trips, just, as I've been seeing the students, just hearing their stories and just hearing, the fire that they have coming back. And it's just a great reminder of like why we keep doing these things and why we financially support and just even the trips. So huge win, I think, overall that whole week. Yep. So, but let's dive in. So Jason, you spoke this last Sunday and we were in Luke, were we in 5?
Yep. Luke chapter 5.
So verses 12 through 16. And we're talking about the leper. So Josh, you were in Prescott. What stuck out to you? Yeah,
it was cool. It was great. Obviously, these are the stories that's interesting. Like we'll go through Luke, and there will be sermons that everybody has heard, because there will be, and this is one of those stories, one of those parables that everybody's pulled out and preached because, it's just, easy, popular story. There's probably going to be some text you're like, man, I've never heard that preached in Luke, right? Because pastor's like, oh, let's do that one, right? Yep. They're like, we'll just skip over that one. So again, just really fun, just a reminder, as we preach through these things. I do wonder, I hope everybody did their homework and read Leviticus 13 and 14.
Did you? Did anybody read it?
I did. Yeah. So I actually read it. It's funny, because we get the sermon early. So I read it after I read the sermon, because I was like, I was pretty sure of what it said, but I was like, it's probably worth just rereading and just hearing it. And
what was your takeaway?
Yeah, I mean, I had read it before, right? But it did definitely like just the again the detail that God went into to leave this for his people. You got to do this and do this. You can't do this. As with all of it, is just that reminder when you read through Leviticus and Deuteronomy and Exodus, and you just so many rules and so much care is put into it. It really is just phenomenal. And so, but having read it, it really didn't. Man, it made. This is an interesting passage. That God would isolate a person like this. Mm-hmm. That's the thing I wrestled with the whole time. I read that, and again, that's the rule. So it wasn't even like, because you read the stories and you're like, man, that's so cruel. The people are being so cruel. They're so mean. But it's like, no, they're just following the rules.
That's right.
It's not even that they didn't create these rules, like that they were following the rules. It's just such an interesting piece. But then as you were talking and you went to Mark, what I couldn't help but think about was Hebrews 13. And so Hebrews 13 talks about Jesus going outside of the camp, and that we go outside to endure with him. It's just this reminder. That's what the note I wrote in my Bible. The contrast is this guy who was outside was brought inside, and Jesus went outside. Mm-hmm. So for us, took my place. It is the great exchange. Mm-hmm. Jesus took my place outside so I could come inside. Like that the rule was foreshadowing for what Jesus would do. Yeah. Right? Like that is so even as I'm wrestling, like, man, this feels so, but it is this big thing. Like, how do you get from being outside to inside? Oh, the only way that's possible is someone who's inside gives up their spot to bring me in. And that's only could be done by Jesus. Yeah. So it's just this beautiful picture. And even God knew where he was going when he gave these rules and these laws. Just so putting it all together that Jesus, goes to the Jesus now has to stay outside in the lonely places, right? That he assumes, you did such a great job, Jason, of of bringing us into this situation that it wasn't physical. The physical was probably the least of the issue.
Right.
It was emotional. It was spiritual. This person is alone and is isolated, and that's where Jesus chooses to go on our behalf. He goes outside so that we could come inside. So yeah. Instantly, like I said, the Hebrews 13 text just kept popping up in my head. Of like, man, he endured all this. Jesus went outside the camp to bring us in. That's just a beautiful picture of the gospel. As you said, that's the good news. If you didn't know that was your story, that is your story. Like, it's just such a beautiful, beautiful picture. So that was my takeaway from it.
Well, I've got some good news for you all. From Leviticus 13. I just thought I'd give you all some hope today. You ready?
Yep.
So, Nate, because you didn't read it, I just want to. This is Leviticus 13, verse 40. A man who has lost his hair and is bald is clean. If he has lost his hair from the front of his scalp and has a bald forehead, he is clean. So you're good to go.
Amen, brother. And it is crazy, the rules. It is crazy. But then I remember God is setting up an entire culture. That's what I always remember. I'm reading all the Leviticus and Deuteronomy and stuff. God's setting a whole culture up, culture who were under the Egyptians, who had a whole different set of rules.
Yeah.
So he's got to create a whole new rule for people. And so he establishes rules for them to survive and to live. And so I know most of us, it's probably, if you're in a Bible reading plan, you're probably about in Leviticus, or you're getting close to tapping on that door and you're getting real close to checking out. If you're like a Bible through the year, you're reaching Leviticus and you start in Genesis and you powered through and you made it and you're getting close probably to some Leviticus. If you're a swift,
now you've got to be already through it, right? You ain't a quarter of the way through yet.
I don't know, man. It takes a while on those Bible readings. You're only in the New Testament for like 4 days. It's crazy how long it takes you to get through the Torah, and so you're just struggling through. And so there's many people who are there right now and they're ready to, or they're in numbers and they're ready to quit. And they're just ready to give up.
Yeah.
And they don't know what to do. So, yeah.
I'm in Exodus struggling with all the,
this
is how you build this. And this
I told you, bro.
Yeah. And this is
I told you
how many gems you put.
You're not as far as you think.
Okay.
It takes a good while to power through on these Bible reading plans. And so it's helpful when you bring those in for context.
Yeah.
It makes, at least for me, it always is like, oh yeah, they would have known this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What caught me when I was studying for this that I hadn't recognized before was that this guy, again, going back to Leviticus 13, he must wear torn clothes and he must keep his hair unkempt. Like you have to, God wanted people to be able to see from a distance, this guy, there's something wrong. And so he has to wear a torn robe and shabby clothes and his hair's a mess. And that was the way it was supposed to. It was a visual recognition that you don't want to be around this guy. Like that for me, I mean, even if you have sores on your arms and legs and face, you can still run a comb through your hair. But God said, no. You got to be able to see from a distance to keep this guy back.
So we actually went to a leper's colony in India when we got to go. And so it is one of those reminders of like, man, there's a pretty awful condition of life.
Yeah.
That is still real, still exists, and still those things and like parts of their, body limbs fall off because it is, to your point, it's just their nerves are dead and they just, whatever. So that was one of the kind of experiences in my mind when you're having seen this, and there's this colony of people who are trying to your point, live together, because there is even that they're not following like Old Testament rules in India, but it is just this ostracization that happens to these people. They are forced to live outside, away from society, and just an incredibly difficult existence. Like I don't even know if we can understate. So like spiritually, like that's hopefully people left understanding to put yourself, that's where you were. Like that's it. That you were outside and ostracized and you weren't allowed in. It is the Adam and Eve get out of this place and there's a barrier to enter back in. It is that's all of our spiritual condition. Every single one of us. Whoa. And then to your point that Jesus's response is just so, I'm willing. I am willing. Whew, man, just an amazing. It was good. It was good.
Yeah.
It was a good text. Like I said, good text to be reminded of what the good news is.
Yeah, especially, going in, because it wasn't a shock that we're in this, vicinity as we're going into Sunday, but going in, knowing the story, but then at the end, how, like Josh, you said, how we are the lepers. And now I think in the room, I think that's where just the shift in tension was of like, whoa, like when you put it in that perspective, it's like, yeah, we are like and you challenged us. If you are here and you feel like this isn't the gospel, then you really need to evaluate everything. And I love the way you just ended it and challenged it for the morning. So I think everybody should have left just thinking a little bit more of their life as a leper and
who's been made clean.
Who has been made clean.
That is the, like, not to sit in the, but who has been
and
made
you
clean.
now have a story to tell.
You have a testimony.
You have a testimony.
So it was cool. This morning I met with my sophomore boys and we've been digging through the word and just thought, I'm going to ask them. I'm like, hey, how did you guys, like, what did you think of the message? Because they were there yesterday. And they're like, man, like, it's great. The part that stuck out to them was it's crazy how Jesus told that leper, don't say anything, just go show yourself. And how quick he was to say, Jesus, look what Jesus did. And they're like, and it's crazy how for us, we don't share as openly as him. And I was like, okay, how do we change that this week and they're like, well, got to go into the schools. It's like, it's simple. It's like, the cool thing is they have Youth Alive at PHS. So I was like, that's as simple as it gets. Invite them to Youth Alive. Like, make those little steps. Like, it doesn't have to be this whole, you're standing on the lunch table proclaiming, unless God put that on your heart. I was like, but they looked at me and they're like, I don't know about that. I'm like, just invite them to Youth Alive. And if they show up, then invite them to church. I was like, do those baby steps. So they left, and we'll see next week how they did. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, but that's what I tell everybody is people aren't asking me what does Leviticus 13 mean when they're trying to figure out if they want to follow Jesus. That's when they're not asking me that. They're asking me my testimony, which I can share. Everybody can share that. Everybody has a testimony today that we can share. That's what people want to know. They want to know, tell me, what has Jesus done for you? How has he changed your life? That should give us all, like, so much of our fear is based in, I'm afraid that if somebody's going to ask me this weird question I won't know the answer to. Bro, ain't nobody reading Leviticus, not an unbeliever or a believer. They ain't asking. You know what I mean? And if they do go, I don't know, but go ask my pastor. And I'm going to tell them the same thing. Man, I don't know, bro. It's crazy. But that's not really what matters. What matters is the Jesus is willing to change your life and transform you if you'll let him. If you come to your humbly and submit to him and go, man, I acknowledge this place I am in, and again, I'm willing to break the rules. He broke the rules. It's scandalous to do what he did, right? He broke all the rules.
Wasn't supposed to be in that town.
Didn't care. Did not care. He said, I'm coming, and so, but that's what people want to know. So be encouraged this week as you go to invite people and share. All you got to tell them is just tell them how Jesus changed your life. That's what people want. That's the hope that they want to experience. And so, and even if because I get all the time, oh man, my testimony is not, I've always just known Jesus. Great. Tell them how that's made your life amazing. Tell them how knowing Jesus your whole life has caused you not to have a whole bunch of heartache and pain and scars, right? That is worth it. It is worth actually hearing that, to go, oh, you can do what he says and your life can actually be what he says it'll be. Oh, I should try that.
That's the testimony I want for all my children.
I need to the men. So there is just this thing. We all have something we can share with people, and you got to be willing and able, and just allow God to use it in a way. So really cool.
Awesome. Well, Jason, if I gave you 10 more minutes, what would you have done or added to your sermon yesterday?
I don't know that I'd added anything. You know, the cool thing about this series is I literally only covered 4 verses. We went from 12 to 16. It was 4 verses. So I feel like that we got enough time. We got enough time to get through it. I said everything I needed to say. Sure, we could have stretched it out, but everything that needed to be said, we got to say. And so, you know, I think I'm grateful that we're doing this, and we're doing it at the speed that we're doing it. We're not trying to rush and skip stuff. So, yeah, I don't know that I would have added anything. You know, I think there's just this conviction. This, you know, I got a little bit. You know, my wife said she came to the 11:15. She's like, "You got a little emotional." She said, "Were you like that in all of them?" I was like, "Yeah, I kind of did."
Yeah.
You know, at the end of I am that leper. And when I sit in that and I think about it, I was on the outside. And man, I think sometimes we just allow ourselves to become so complacent in what God has done for us that in moments like when I'm preaching that and I'm trying to help our people see it, it strikes at my heart again and again of what God has done. And so I do hope that everybody walked out yesterday just amazed again that Jesus reached out. And again, the idea that he didn't wait, he didn't tell the leper, go get yourself cleaned up and come back and I'll give you a hug.
Yeah.
In his totality of leprosy, like that, in the middle of his filth, he reached out and touched him. He didn't wait for him to be clean. And it didn't touch him. The touch didn't make him clean. Like it didn't immediately. He touched him in the midst of his filth. And that's what he does for us. He reaches down in the midst of our sin and he grabs a hold of us. And man, that just, when I stop getting emotional about that is probably when I need to hang it up, right? If we're not amazed by that anymore, I think there's probably some work that the Lord needs to do in our heart. This was a sermon I was looking forward to preaching.
Yeah. So cool. Awesome. Well, let's jump into our questions. We have one from Rose, and she says, good morning, faithful servants of Jesus and Quad City Church. I am so thankful and blessed to hear the words preached verse by verse. I sense the work and study that goes into the planning and crafting sermons each week. Thank you. And then she says, this story of Jesus and the leper, and in parentheses she says, or me, brings to my mind Jesus' love and concern for those resistant to his message. The religious leaders of his earthly time, Jesus knew Moses' writing, as Jesus referred to in Leviticus 13 and 14. The priest was very involved with examining diseases of the skin multiple times before declaring clean or unclean. As I have read this passage in Luke, I feel Jesus' desire to meet the priests on their terms to give them opportunity to decide for themselves. Could this be the Messiah? What do you think?
I think you're 100% right. I think that's exactly why Jesus calls, well, 2 things. I think one, it is Jesus' love for the priest, for sure, that he wants this leper to go show himself, because Jesus makes that emphatically clear when he says, do this as a testimony to them. Mm-hmm. It wasn't even just a testimony for him or for his family. It was for those priests. He wanted this man to go share his testimony. I think there's another piece of it too, though, to think about, that Jesus still required this man to obey the word.
Yeah.
Like that was what was required. It was the priest who determined you were unclean. It was also the priest who declared you clean. And so Jesus wanted this man to be obedient to the law of Moses, put the word into act. This is what God's word says. Go do that. Go to the priest and show him so that he can declare you unclean. Declare you clean. But I do believe you're 100% right, Rose. I think there is something to the Christ's heart for these priests, that he wanted them to be able to see the work of God up close and personal and hear the testimony of this man of how he was healed. Because my guess is that someone being healed like this is something they'd never seen before. And to go immediately, that's the word it's used. It's not, we're going to give you an ointment, come back in 7 days, or take this soap and do this thing. Or it was immediately when he says, be cleaned, he's healed. So I think that immediate transformation as he goes and shows himself to the priest and shares that news with them, it would have an impact. And I think Jesus wanted that.
And they would have only read the stories in the Old Testament. Jesus already had mentioned one of them. Right. Dipping in the river and it would heal you. Yeah. That, they had read that, but had never witnessed it themselves. Mm-hmm. They had read Elijah. They had never witnessed it, and so the same thing is like, hey, like God is on the move. Look what he can do. I'm sure. And there was probably priests in there who would have been amazed.
Yeah.
Whoa, wait a minute, and so, it is because, John, Nicodemus was a part of this group of people. And so early in his ministry, Nicodemus shows up to Jesus because he's heard the things Jesus is doing and he's wanting to know for himself. Like, dude, I'm hearing this story. Is what I'm hearing true? And he has this, that's where John 3:16 is. It's in this response to Nicodemus, but he is a religious leader of the day who had heard and then began to wonder just like we would wonder. And so, you do believe that there is, these are the people that may have been wondering, is God going to move? And Jesus is like, hey, go tell them.
Yeah.
And some could have responded and some probably did respond and join the team, so to speak.
Yeah.
So,
we specifically see that in the book of Acts, where it says a large number of priests became disciples. So we do see that later on.
Because your whole life, you're reading this, wondering, man, would this be possible in my day? Believing. And they're showing up, so faithfully. You talked about some of the order of the priest and how they got to serve only here and how they got their name. Like, man, it was an honor to be from that clan and to hold that thing. They held that really high esteem. And so to have read the stories, but then to see the proof would have definitely, changed them. I assume it would have.
Yep.
I hope it would have.
Yeah.
So
awesome. Well, I think that's a good place to stop, and we hope you guys have a good week.
Well, let's talk about this week.
Yeah.
Come for Easter. Dun, dun, dun.
Okay. We can do better than that. There are a couple of things, right? We got.
Come for Easter. I feel like that's a good. Dun, dun, dun.
We have Good Friday. Don't forget about that. We're excited for Good Friday. For my wife and I, Good Friday last year was probably one of the services that she and I looked back on and enjoyed the most. It was really great. So that's Friday here at the Prescott campus, 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
And then obviously we got the Saturday nights here at the Prescott campus, 3 and 5. And then we will launch into the Sundays. Both campuses will have an 8, a 9:30, and an 11:15. So come join us for one of those. Super excited.
Bring someone with you.
Yeah.
Bring somebody with you.
Yeah.
Bring somebody with you who does not know. Because what we're going to do is we're going to invite people again who do not know Jesus to come to know him. Like that is always the celebration of, we're going to invite people to participate in the death, burial, and the resurrection of Christ. And so it is my favorite thing that we get to do. And we've been getting to do a lot of it lately, to witness people go from death to life. And as a church, to your point, I hope we never grow tired of that. Yeah. That we always, it's like the stories in Luke, that heaven is rejoicing. So we on this side should be rejoicing with heaven as unrighteous people turn and repent and come home. So I'm super excited to be a part of that.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we're excited to see you guys. We hope you have a good week.